Most of us will never do the thing that we dream about. Not because we can't, but because we've already decided that we're going to fail. It's killing careers, hobbies, and dreams before they even start. Self-doubt isn't just stopping you from trying, it stops you from even showing up. 63% of gym members quit within the first 3 months. 90% of podcasts never make it past episode 3. And 1 in 3 adults say that they're more scared of failure than anything else. And that's just the people who admit it. Behind the scenes, millions of us are quietly putting ourselves down and quitting in silence. And with the pressures of social media, it's only getting worse. But here's the thing. Doubt never tells you the truth. Doubt tells us all that we will fail, but it's pushing past that very feeling that will lead to success. I've been able to get into the best shape of my life despite living with a chronic disease. I've built this channel to almost 25,000 subscribers, even though I told myself almost daily that I was going to fail. I've managed to run 5k in under 23 minutes. I've deadlifted 240 kilos. Things I once thought were impossible for me. And I've done this all with this constant self-doubt in my head. And the only reason that I've been able to do this is because I took action anyway. So in this video, I'm going to break down why self-doubt can hit the hardest when we set high expectations for ourselves, how it quietly kills our progress before we even start, and the tools that I've personally used to push through it in gaming, in fitness, and in life. So what can we do about self-doubt? Well, I think one of the best ways to quiet the self-doubt is to use evidence from your own past successes. There was a time when I had been given a video job, and I hadn't done a video job in quite a while, so I felt underprepared for it. I was filled with that self-doubt. When I was preparing my equipment, I was constantly checking if I had enough SD cards, if I had the batteries, if the camera wasn't on in the camera bag, draining the battery before I started. And I was in this cycle of self-doubt and worry. Can I do this? Will I fail? What could go wrong? And to a certain extent, self-doubt can be useful. That self-doubt made me check that I had everything that I needed to conduct that job. But when it became this vicious cycle of just checking for the sake of checking, because I was worried, because I thought I was going to fail before I even started, that's when it becomes a problem. That's when you can use your past successes as evidence to quieten that doubt. I just think back to all the times I have done video jobs. Have I ever forgotten the SD cards? The answer's no. Have I ever gone without my batteries? No, I haven't. So when I look back, this isn't going to be a problem, and I've double checked that I have these things. Another way that I think self-doubt can build is through self-expectations. I think that you can see this most evidently in competitive gaming, because you've got ranking systems. You can look on live streams and see how people are playing effectively. You're 1v1 against someone or working in a team to be against other people, and one of you is going to be the winner. It can cause a lot of anxiety and stress. And for me, I felt this a lot when I was playing StarCraft 2. I was scared of playing the 1v1 mode in StarCraft because it filled me with this self-doubt. After playing thousands of online matches, I had this self-expectation that I had to perform to a certain level. And when I was in a 1v1 situation, I was riddled with self-doubt. I was expecting myself to play to a certain level even though I had hardly played any 1v1 matches previously. And I'd seen this self-doubt build inside of me just by learning the game itself. When I started playing StarCraft, the game was fun. And then when I started playing ranked games and playing competitively, that's when I started expecting more from myself. I set myself these self-expectations. I wanted to reach a certain level. And as my rank climbed in that game, and this can be linked to any game, I've felt this in Counter-Strike as well. As I got better at StarCraft and Counter-Strike, my ranks increased. I had a greater and greater sense of self-expectations. I felt like I had to achieve certain milestones, otherwise I was a failure. If I didn't get a certain amount of kills in one Counter-Strike game, or if I didn't make certain moves that would lead to a victory in StarCraft, I would begin to almost hate myself for not doing that. I would then get this fear of failure. Why should I even click search? Because it's going to lead to this potential outcome where I will lose a game. So instead of playing a game which I thought was fun, I didn't click search. And in fact, I would just quit the game. Unless I had friends with me on that game to almost reduce that fear of failure, I didn't want to play the game. It's that moment that you start measuring yourself, that you start to doubt yourself. And I've seen this in other games as well. When I was playing Warzone, it started off as a casual game. There was no stress behind it. I was just playing for fun. And then when I finally got my first couple of wins, I suddenly felt this pressure. There was a leaderboard at the time that showed you how many wins that you had versus your friends. And I wanted to climb that leaderboard. And now suddenly every battle royale that I dropped in, I had this self-expectation. I needed another win to climb the ladderboard. And that just led to me feeling frustrated every time that I would lose, because failure is part of the journey. It's part of gaming and it's part of life. And I've seen this viscerally when I played Valorant. Now, I didn't play Valorant for long, but my friends were urging me to try Valorant. And I thought that as someone who's played 1,000 hours or so of Counter-Strike, I might be okay at Valorant. But I got quickly frustrated within just a couple of games because I'd set such a high self-expectation of myself that I was going to perform well at Valorant. And when I very quickly was shown that I was not going to perform very well, I had this toxic expectation of myself. And I did something that I still regret to this day. I punched myself in the head out of pure frustration and I gave myself a concussion. And it's one of the lowest points of my life. And that's when it almost made me take a step back and realise, what the hell am I doing to myself? Now, I have seen this in the gym as well. When I was deep into powerlifting, when I lifted that 240 kilos that I mentioned at the top of the video, I was actually totally demoralised by this because I actually tried to lift 250 kilos afterwards. That was the number that I actually wanted to get. And I failed. I had this self-imposed standard of myself that I needed to hit this 250 kilo deadlift to feel like a success, to feel happy. And when I inevitably failed, it felt crushing. And I was just filled with this self-doubt that my whole lifting journey was pointless. And the key thing that I've learned from this, from gaming, from the gym, and from other things that I've done in my life, is that the more you learn and the more experience that you have in any of these things, the more self-expectations start to creep in. And when you inevitably fall short, that gap between the expectation that you have and the reality of what's happened, that becomes your self-doubt. It almost becomes evidence for you to say you are a failure and you will always be a failure. It blinds you to the fact that failure can be one of the greatest teachers in life, that you need to fail to learn how to win. And gaming can make this brutally obvious because they give you instant access to public scoreboards. They rank you against your friends. They rank you against people on the internet that you have no idea who they are. People who may excel at the game. People who may put thousands of hours of practice in and you've put tens of hours of practice in. And when you lose to that person, it fills you with self-doubt because you expect them to be on the same level as you. In real life, the scoreboard is quieter, but the feeling is the same. And oftentimes, you're just fighting against yourself. If you're able to take away that scoreboard, or at least your obsession with it, then you take away most of the fuel for that self-doubt. That's why I love games such as Call of Duty World at War. I'm not at war against myself. I'm not trying to climb some sort of scoreboard or leaderboard or try and be one of the best Call of Duty players in the world. I am literally just playing World at War for fun. The metric is, am I chilling out? Am I having a good time? It's not my KD. That doesn't matter in the slightest. It just matters that I'm enjoying my time on this game. And I actually enjoy it so much more than any of these other competitive games. And the thing is, I think that when you're in this mindset, you actually learn so much faster. Not only are you having fun, but you're actually experimenting more. You're not crippling yourself with self-doubt, so you're playing more, which means you're practicing more. And it just has this compounding effect that makes you better at the game without you even feeling like that you're trying to be better. And many of us feel this fear of failure when we haven't even tried the activity once in our life. We expect ourselves to be semi-okay at something, otherwise we have this fear of judgment from others. But it is that very failure that will lead you to learn something. You need to give yourself permission to be bad at something. Otherwise, you're going to stall the learning process. At the end of the day, self-expectations are not a bad thing. They can drive us to be better than we would be otherwise. But when they start dictating your mood and your confidence, and whether you even show up to try it, then that's when you need to reframe these self-expectations. Because confidence in yourself doesn't always come from meeting your own expectations, because oftentimes we don't. It comes from showing up to try, even when you're not sure that you want to. So here's some ideas to reduce those self-expectations of yourself. One of the best things you can do is to shrink that starting line. Instead of thinking, I need to get into running, I need to reduce my 5k time, just think, I'm going to go for a jog, and it doesn't matter how long it's going to take. It doesn't matter what pace I go to or what my heart rate is. I'm just going to jog. Change what you're focusing on, that scoreboard. Focus on the process instead of the outcome. Like I just said, you're just going for a jog. You're just going to play the video game. You're just going to play a few ranked matches for the sake of it. You're not trying to climb some leaderboard. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And keep track of that evidence that you've done that thing before. Like when I said I had that video job and I was worried that I would even be able to perform at the video job, I just look back at all the years of experience that I've had with making videos. Even though I had an extended period where I didn't have a job, and it filled me with that self-doubt, I just leaned on my experience. I remembered, I've done this before. I've done this hundreds of times before. There's no reason that I'm going to mess this up. And finally, I think one of the best things you can do is switch lanes. Let's say you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself in the gym to lift more weights. Well, there's more than just lifting weights in the gym. There's the treadmill, there's stretching, there's hanging off a bar to see how long you can hold on for. You could make up any activity to do while you're at the gym that doesn't involve lifting weights. If that pressure and that self-expectation is building up, change lanes. The truth is, you don't have to wait for confidence. You build confidence while feeling that fear, while feeling that sense of self-doubt. Every goal that I've ever hit happened while I was doubting myself. The voice in your head that's telling you you're going to fail doesn't just disappear, but it does get quieter when you stop listening to it. Thank you so much to everyone that's signed up to the Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel, then click the link down below and click this video here to hear more from me. Thanks for listening.